Why? Why would you start with media? A lot of CMOs, this is technical and complex and boring and out of their comfort zone. Right, so today we're going to talk about how the best CMOs are making an impact in media, and that was prompted by a phone call that we had last week. Obviously, many of our clients are CMOs. We got a call last week of an ex-client of ours who got promoted to a CMO role, called us, and he said, I'm starting with media. Yeah. It's a really nice brief. Brilliant. And that is something that we hear again and again. Why do CMOs start with media? Why are the best CMOs starting with media?
Well, let's just look at the tenure. So most CMO tenures are between kind of 2.5, 3, 4 years, okay? And they need to make an immediate impact on their business.
Got to, for survival.
Absolutely, right? And so, and why is media so high on their kind of marketing agenda? It's because it has never been more accountable. It is far easier now to attribute business outcome, business growth, with media investment. Yeah. And equally, if you don't get that right, then you begin to see your business slow down. Yeah. So focusing on media, we call it media first, is the best way for a CMO now to focus on kind of the big output, the big business growth objectives that they have. Yeah.
And we would have seen, a few years ago, a CMO would come into an organization looking, you have to make an impact in any job, right? You've got to make an impact. As CMO, you're under huge scrutiny anyway and under pressure. Yeah. And maybe historically their focus has been on product, like product development, R&D, innovation. That seems to be in the obsession. Invent a category. Yeah. That was like the legacy, wasn't it? Invent a category, bring out a new winning product, make round tea bags and stuff like that. And then maybe shifted to kind of building brands, or maybe it was historically about building brands. But now the first question again and again is get media right. So we call it media first.
That's right.
So why? Why would you start with media? A lot of CMOs, this is technical and complex and boring and out of their comfort zone.
That's right. But if you have...
It's not money.
Absolutely. It's always been a lot of money. Yeah. But if you have line of sight on the impact of your media investment on a business outcome, then you will just be smarter at investing that media. Yeah. That will enable you to find efficiencies within the media kind of supply chain. Yeah. And with those efficiencies, you can either reinvest back into media deployment, or, as Mark Pritchard has kind of proclaimed, he can reinvest the money that he saves for Procter & Gamble in the craft of creativity and content development.
Yeah, exactly. So start with media, and then that empowers you to reinvest or support other things. And it also, I think it's what Mark said, is I want my marketers to be focusing on building brands. I don't want them focused on or distracted by the crappy media supply chain. So a lot of CMOs coming in now and thinking, cut out waste, really focus on, just get really focused on the job that media is supposed to do, right? Which is to connect your brands with your customers, which is a great big opportunity. Yeah. If you get that right, and as we know, the thing about media is if you set it up right, you can create a model which can last your business, 5, 6 years, invest the time, get it right now, and then allow your marketers to spend most of their time nurturing brands and growing the businesses. That's why we say, or that CMOs are saying, start with media.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, so why now? Why are CMOs obsessing about media?
Because of data. Yeah. So the control of data within a marketing organization and the clever use of data enables them to have better ideas of who their consumer is. Yeah. It enables them to be smarter when it comes to media strategy. Yep. Data should enable better creative development, and it certainly enables smarter execution. Yeah. And progressive, smart CMOs understand the power of data within their marketing organization to drive all of these kind of key elements.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's more that you can, even from media data, we're hearing our advertiser clients, feedback loop just from media enables them to understand product development needs. Getting better feedback from customers, being able to react quicker to the marketplace. enables them to make much smarter budgeting.
Yeah.
So investment allocations around different communications channels or across different markets or product lines. And then hugely, this is something which is significant change, is the balancing of resources. Yeah. So for a CMO, and this is what we're going to come on to talk about actually how you implement media first, knowing long term as a CMO what my marketing organization needs to look like in terms of people and skills and structure and process. There's been lots of talk about in-housing, building internal capabilities. So that's, you know, your data loop can start to help you understand where you need skills focus.
Absolutely.
And then also what external resources you're going to need, whether that be agencies or technologies, working with vendors, whatever it be. So the opportunity to get data right is so compelling.
Yes.
For a CMO. It's not media first is not about reduce the cost of media.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's about create value back from your media investments that just enable such bigger impact and transformation.
And in answer to your original question, why media? It is because media is the guardian of that data.
Yes, exactly right. Right, so we need to talk about then how you do that.
Yes.
So in the scenario that we described at the beginning, we get a call from a CMO. He says, there's many things in my organization that I think I could tackle, but I'm going to start with media. And a lot of CMOs, in our experience, they don't have depth of knowledge in media. It's not a place of comfort for them. Yeah. It's technical and complex, and sometimes it's been ignored a lot by CMOs. So it's a big, brave decision. So what do they do right at the beginning of that process if they're going to media first?
Well, it's rare now that the first thing they do is go and beat up their agencies and go and kind of try and reduce.
That's not a tactic.
That's not a tactic.
Okay.
The first thing that they do is they try and understand their own internal operating structure, their own internal media management capabilities, where the strengths and the weaknesses are, where the capability gaps are. That will enable them to begin to start kind of reducing the immediate wastage in media. But critically, it gives them a perspective on where they need to go. So understanding their own internal organisation and what an improved operational model would look like is the first thing that they need to do.
So that, I mean, like any good strategic marketer, which you'd hope a CMO is, knows that in order to build a strategy then for that, you need insight. So that's where we often start, is helping them provide the insight with the internal diagnostic, which is looking, as you said, looking at their organisation, looking where their strengths are, and then where the gaps are, where the opportunities to improve. We can compare different functions within against each other, and also then benchmark them against other companies. Because a lot of CMOs, maybe where they don't have depth of knowledge on media, they want to learn how other companies are doing it, what other CMOs have done, and these are the processes that we often take CMOs and their teams through. We should reference Mars here actually, because I think we've talked about it on MediaSnack before, and in fact you did a special episode with the team at Mars talking through how the media team there were delivering for the CMO these kind of insights through diagnostic.
That's right. And I mean the change management program that Mars implemented started with a diagnostic and then kind of gave them a roadmap for transformational change, and that ultimately resulted in a media review. But some organisations decide to go the other way around. So they decide to look at a realignment or a discussion with their agency partners as a catalyst for internal change. Both of those routes are equally effective, but the consistency is that the CMO or the key stakeholder has received a clear perspective as to what is currently working and what isn't working within their internal organisational structure.
Good.
So a CMO has done the diagnostic. They've got the insights. How do they then develop a strategy for transformation?
Good question. So all good strategy built on insight, as we know, as a good strategic marketer will know. The strategy that they're building is essentially a build or buy. It's really about resourcing. So the focus is going to be have an operating model for media, figure out what resources you require internally to do that, and sometimes that's quite a lot of change. We know media is changing a lot. You're trying to future-proof your organisation for the next 5 years, so you've got to really think about this bit, what you need to build internally, structures, people, skills, capabilities, all that stuff. And only then Do you think about the external resources, your agencies, vendors, technologies, partners that you're going to need? And then that helps you understand exactly the scope of those external partners. Then before you can then start a roadmap of execution, which is, as you've said, some companies do them both together. Some companies start internal, which would be our recommendation generally. Some start externally for good reason. And then that's something that you can go execute. And end to end, this is something, we talk about CMOs creating a legacy or having an impact. End to end, this is a year's work. So
that's right.
CMO coming in saying, where do I start? You go, well, start with media.
That's right.
Then you've got 2 years to go and do other stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, it gives you impact, it gives you control, and it future-proofs your media operation.
Yeah, very good. So if you're a CMO, you want to be the best CMO, start with media. Right, before we do good week, bad week, I should just say if you are a CMO, you're a marketer, thinking about how to tackle media first, if you click up here, we'll link to a whole playlist. I think we did 8 videos at the beginning of the year, which is an action plan for media transformation. And that will at least help you understand where you need to start and the questions to ask. Yeah. Right, okay, so good week 4.
Well, it's been a great week for Mediacom.
Yeah.
The result of the Mars review, which we've kind of briefly referenced, came through. They have consolidated the win. They will be now doing both planning and buying globally for Mars.
Yeah.
Billings in excess of $1.4 billion.
Yeah.
And this is just another, actually, another big win for Mediacom. So they retained Sky, they retained Shell. So this is an agency that's in the ascendancy. So good win for Mediacom.
Yeah.
Bad week 4.
Bad week 4. Bad week for YouTube, actually, because Mars had to pull ads off YouTube because pre-roll ads for their Starburst brand, which are the colourful kind of fruity sweets, very kind of kid-friendly sweets, were running ahead of videos for drill music, which, as you probably well know, is the soundtrack to kind of gang violence in London. That's what it's been called. YouTube have been censoring these videos anyway, should not be running ads against this kind of stuff. So Mars took the decision to kind of pull the things off. Interestingly, related to your good week, Mars's media buyer, Zenith, not that it was necessarily their fault, but obviously don't have that account anymore, and that's moved to Mediacom. What it echoes, there's been lots and lots of talk about brand safety. This is called a kind of brand safety thing. All the press keeps saying, oh, it's a brand safety issue. It's not, it's a brand care issue. Someone along the line didn't care enough to make sure that that Starburst brand was appearing around the right content. Now, whether that's YouTube's fault, the media buyer's fault, some intermediary, or a marketer at Mars, somebody's responsible, and that's a lack of care and attention. We did a whole episode about this last year. We wrote blog posts about it. We're very passionate about the idea of caring more about context and environment. So we'll link to that, but not another bad mess up for YouTube. Okay, before we go, question of the week: do the best CMOs start with media?
Yes, no, whatever.
Excellent, good. That's your media snack for this week. Please give us a thumbs up if you like what we're doing. Bye for now.
See you next time.
I'm just going to step aside. You just tell us all about it. It's good, it gets your voice. It's good. Right.